I wanted to turn to something that Lincoln Riley said. Lincoln Riley had this quote to say, and it was, let me find that. All right. Bama was ahead of the curve for years, I thought, on how they scheduled in the non-conference. They would occasionally hit the marquee non-conference game. They play two other not very good teams. They play one late, so they got essentially a little bit of a bye week there late in the season. They didn't schedule for the fans. They scheduled to win championships. We can do the best thing. Schedule to win championships. That includes a rivalry game for all that comes with that and all that means. But if you get in the position, you've got to make a decision on what the priority is. He was asked about Notre Dame. In other words, South Carolina and Notre Dame is not going to happen anymore. It's not. So my question to you, and it's on the YouTube page right now, a poll question, a new poll question. I'd rather see the Vols pound a bad opponent or play a good team and take our chances. What do you think? Without looking, what do you think most people will say? Because we already have several votes on board right now.
Pound a bad opponent. Am I right?
No. So far, just a few votes. It's 100% the other way. Play a good team and take chances.
I'd like to applaud them for saying that because they're right.
Well, I would like to applaud them, but they're wrong. And if you believe that, you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. Because there are 12 slots for the playoff. How many conference games do you have now, Caleb?
Well, the SEC still has 8 because Greg Sankey doesn't know how to get the SEC in line.
How many do they have? 8, right?
8. Big Ten has 9, but SEC has 8.
Right. So you got 4 other games. You're going through the SEC, the toughest conference, and I know you would agree with that. Caleb scheduled the 4 biggest patsies in the world. And I tell you who I would go ahead and sign up for the next 10 years. Chattanooga to keep the money in state, Memphis to keep the money in state, and maybe leverage a basketball deal out of it, although that's probably going to take Rick Barnes or Anthony Hardaway going away. Austin Peay, MTSU. I'd keep the money in state. The home games would be a ton of fun because they're going to blow everybody out. And there you go. And you're going to be in the college football playoff as long as you don't lose more than 2 games at 10-2. And with where this program's going, I think that's a very safe assumption. I know you think I'm wrong. Caleb, can you do me a favor and tell me exactly why in 15 seconds as we remind you that Varner Ford in Clinton is where you need to go to shop for your new vehicle?
Cab 4x4 STX, $45,985. 24 Ford Escape, $30,962. 24 Ford Maverick XLT, $32,720. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Why am I wrong, Caleb Calhoun? I'll remind you to please hit the like and subscribe button. 4 patsies, line them up. I'll knock them down.
Well, you're actually wrong twice. Because even if you were going to play your way and do 4 patsies, you wouldn't schedule Memphis anymore. They're favored to win the AAC. You don't want to schedule a good group of 5 team. You got to schedule a bad one. You don't want to schedule one that could be dangerous.
Memphis would be you're right, but Memphis would be the closest I would get to a quality opponent. NC State is rated higher than Tennessee. I looked at the future schedules that were out there, and we'll get to that, but there are some programs out there that don't need to be scheduled. Why is NC State on the schedule? You gain nothing from playing them.
Let me explain. That was just the first thing you were wrong about. Okay.
I got a little excited.
You're doubly wrong. Okay. You were wrong thinking Memphis would be a patsy if you want to schedule them. If you schedule, you got to schedule bad. Number 2.
Bad. Like Chattanooga bad?
Yes. Your argument held more weight when it was a 14 playoff or when it was a 2-team playoff. Because back then, it wasn't about the schedule strength. It was a loss knocked you out. Period. End of story. And so you wanted to schedule as easy as possible. In a 12-team playoff, Dave, the committee is going to do this like the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee in basketball. They are going to massively hold it against you if you schedule patsies. So if Tennessee does what you're saying, or if any school in the SEC did what you're saying, the committee wouldn't let them in with an 11-1 record. They would have to go, or
No
maybe 11
way. There is no way an SEC team. If you schedule 4 Patsies.
10 I meant to say 10-2. The committee would never let them in with a 10-2 record. You have to go 11-1 if you schedule 4 Patsies. That's what the committee is going to do. So I'm telling you this right now. You are basically, if you do what you're saying, Dave, you are narrowing your path to the playoff, because if you schedule 2 tough out of conference games, 9-3 is getting you into the playoff. If you schedule 1 tough out of conference game, 9-3 might get you into the playoff. If you schedule none, 10-2 won't get you into the playoff. You have to go 11-1. I'm telling you that right now.
I don't believe that. Remember? And here's why. Because Tennessee's a sexy team. And you're going to, let's say Mississippi State. I'm just picking Mississippi State out of random. Let's say Mississippi State and Tennessee both go 10-2 in the same year. They're going to take Tennessee. And I don't care if Mississippi State has a win over, non-SEC team, a win over Ohio State on their record. They're going to take Tennessee.
So you're acknowledging that Tennessee is going to get favorable treatment, because, a lot of Tennessee fans are like, everybody hates us. Well, fans of every team.
Yes, there are about 15 programs that you have to look at with their fan base. And if you don't give them preferential treatment, you're stupid.
You're acknowledging that this playoff is not merit-based. It's entertainment-based. It's
not 100%. Yes, this is all entertainment. But it's, okay, I believe it's 90% merit-based. What would you say?
I would probably agree with you on everything you're saying. But what I am saying is, if Mississippi State went and played Michigan.
And by the way, they couldn't, because Tennessee and Mississippi State play each other. You might want to give me an Auburn or something.
Yeah, okay, so if Auburn went and played like Michigan, well, I would never give Auburn. Auburn haven't they always been notorious for the worst out of conference schedules possible?
Just pick the way. Okay,
if Auburn goes and plays Michigan and Florida State in non-conference, and Tennessee does
That's two. Don't give me 2.
Fine. If Auburn goes and plays Michigan and Tennessee does what you said, and both teams are 10-2, they are going to put Auburn in. They are going to weigh that. You are so wrong on this.
Well, first of all, Auburn, we changed the example. Mississippi State has a smaller fan base. Auburn has a bigger fan base. So that's not my greatest comparison. How about, let's go Ole Miss. If Ole Miss is 10-2 and Tennessee is 10-2 and they played 4 Patsies, and let's say Ole Miss beat Michigan, are you saying that listen,
yes.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but I believe that you could make an argument. Well, Tennessee is averaging more points than any team in the nation. You could make an argument. Some sort of argument will be out there that you could make that Tennessee should go in over Ole Miss with the same record, and I firmly believe they would, Patsy or not.
There's another layer to this, by the way, because schedule strength also factors in who has the harder SEC schedule. Like, if you're Texas versus Oklahoma this year in football, I mean, like, again, if you have Texas's SEC schedule, you need to schedule big out of conference. If you have Oklahoma's SEC schedule, schedule 4 Patsies. That's another layer.
But these schedules are made years in advance.
I agree, and that's why it's hard to predict. It's going to be held against teams. One, you're assuming that it'll come down to Tennessee and Ole Miss. It could come down to Tennessee and Auburn, or Tennessee and Alabama, or Tennessee and some blue blood Big Ten. Okay, it could come down to 2 blue blood programs, and then they will look at the schedule strength. And if one team scheduled very easy out of conference, it's going to work against them. Dave, this happens in college basketball. You've seen it. Do you remember the 2000 Georgia basketball team that got into the NCAA tournament with a 16-14 record because they scheduled so difficult?
Adam says, why is it always a great opponent or cupcake? Where are the middle of the road Power 5 schools?
Well, Dave picked that with me.
Well, not purposely.
Oh.
But like Pitt, to me, that's a middle of the road.
That's the most dangerous.
I know, that's the ones I don't want the middle of the road Power 5 schools. That's the exact ones, Adam, I don't want. Now, so far, everybody agrees with you. It's never been 100% before, so we'll see if that.
There's another factor. Can I add another factor?
Yeah, let me just update the poll. I'd rather see the Vols pound a bad opponent, play a good team, and take chances. 100% on your side. We've never had a poll go 100%. So help me, peeps.
You talk about, thinking politicking and who's the sexy team in the playoff. The College Football Playoff Committee, that's a TV show, the playoff. But the entire college football season is a TV show. Is that fair to say, Dave?
Yes.
They're not going to be happy at teams who schedule patsies out of conference, which takes away potential marquee games during the regular season that they would be able to cover and generate ratings. So they might work around the clock to disincentivize teams to do that because they want those marquee games in the regular season.
Okay. This comment, I think, says everything. And if you've been around football a lot, you see how beat up these guys get throughout the year. And I think so far it's the top comment on the board, brought to you by Quality Tire Pros. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. Support our sponsors. All work covered by a nationwide warranty. Please support our sponsors. Stop by and say, hey, we're on Cherokee Boulevard. I'm at Quality Tire Pros. Dave Hooker said, hey, Bo. That's qualitytirepros.com. qualitytirepros.com. Chip Godfrey said team needs some down games to recover. Absolutely, I agree with that. Now Trevor says I'm sick of cupcake games, but I've seen these guys beat the bejesus out of them, and they need a break. I think that's why Tennessee was so good in bowl games and why they had so many people attend bowl games. Is because they closed every season with Vanderbilt and Kentucky, and they looked darn good no matter what happened against Florida in September.
It's also why Tennessee's never had a Heisman winner.
So your final say is, I think that's a factor. So your final say would be 3 cupcakes and what?
Here's the way I've always said it. I've always said 1 Power 5 elite team that's like a marquee game that like we all want to see. 1 upper level group of 5 team. You know what I mean? Like you brought up Memphis, you know what I mean? Like something like that. So like a Power 5 game or an upper level group of 5 game, a lower level group of 5 game. And what I'm talking about at that point, I'm talking about a MAC school or somebody that goes like 3-9, and then 1 FCS school. And by the way, I'm for the FCS games, 1 a year. And the reason I'm for them is because I don't want scholarship opportunities for lower level college football players to dry up, Dave. And what people don't realize is that 1 FCS game a year, that funds their whole season.
Yeah, you can want and hope, but that's going to go away.
I know.
And I hate it too, but you and I both know it.
It's so funny that people complain about that. I'm like, you guys complain about it, but you want opportunities for kids too. It's like, this is how they fund their football programs. Tennessee writes UT Chattanooga a whatever $1 million check. Chattanooga takes that and funds their whole season with that.
I've never heard anybody complain about that. I mean,
people want the FCS games to go. I'm like, no, 1 FCS game a year is perfectly reasonable.
Okay. Well, I don't know who you guys is, but I haven't heard anybody complain specifically about that. Now, my second option, as opposed to 4 cupcakes that I like way better than yours, is 3 cupcakes and 1 absolutely elite opponent. Not an NC State, or let's look at Tennessee's future non-conference schedule. So it's Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, UTEP this year. Next year, it's Syracuse, CTSU, UAB, New Mexico State. In 2026, it's Furman, Nebraska, Western Michigan, then Nebraska in 27, West Virginia in 28, Washington in 29 and 30. That's a long ways away. We don't know that that'll actually end up happening, but Washington, West Virginia, and Nebraska are not the teams I would play. I would go to the table with a big-time program and say, let's do this, just like Alabama did. The Alabama-Miami game, even though it ended up being a total blowout, was at the beginning 2 years ago, got a ton of play. So if you want to do something along the lines like that, I'm totally good with it. But the mid-level Power 5 team that can prove something and make their season by beating you is the one team that I don't want to play.
You absolutely don't want that. You absolutely don't want that.
Like NC State.
Yes, you need to go all in. I mean, it's crazy to think looking back. I think Tennessee thought they were getting a mid-level BCS team when they faced Syracuse in 98, right? And they didn't realize they were getting a Big East champion that was capable of beating anybody that year. And
Well,
you
that Syracuse team though was still reeling from losing Daryl Moose Johnston, who went on to have a fantastic career with the Dallas Cowboys. I worked that in. Rob Conrad replaced him. I thought I'd see if I could work in a Dallas Cowboys reference for the second time. About 2 minutes.
Cowboys fan, you guys think you're relevant and no one else talks about you.
Oh, I know, but you got to admit I do a good job of not throwing it in there all the time.
No, you do. You do. Man, Dave, you're such a bandwagoner. Cowboys and a Yankee fan and a Celtics fan. You just picked all the winners when you were growing up.
Didn't. They were horrible. No. They were all horrible in the 80s except for the Celtics. Every team I liked was
darn good.
And it was the Celtics were really good.
Yeah,
but the other teams were bad. I'm not going to defend my fandom. But the problem was we had 3 channels back then, Caleb, and only the Steelers, Cowboys, Dolphins, and Raiders were on TV.